All right, folks, UnHappy Thursday coming to you live from the humble abode here. This is the UnHappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio, part of the Green Legion Radio family. We thank you, as always, for joining us from whatever device you're using to watch on YouTube. So please pull up a chair, turn up the volume if you need to, if I'm not quite loud enough for you. Crack open a cold one if that's your thing on a Thursday night. Use the company dime if, God forbid, you're still stuck at work. And let's try to have some fun as we put an end to day 4 of this week's hostage situation and look forward to tomorrow being Friday and another fun Friday coming up this weekend. Lou Mancini in the room. Nice shirt. Thanks, brother. Lou Dominguez in the room. What up, Lou? Nice shirt and hat, USA. Yeah, I bought... Lou, I actually bought 2. One of them in the picture, it's a black hat, like a little bit camo, like really, really dark camo. And the flag looked like it was midnight green. And then when it got here, it's really more like an aqua. I may just send it to you because it's really more of a Miami Dolphins looking color. I like the hat and everything, but I bought it because I thought it would be, birds colored, and it's not. So, we got a group text, you, me, and Chris. I'll holler at you about it later on. Keenan Harmon joins the room. What's up, boys? Been a rough week over here. As if last week coming back from New Orleans wasn't difficult enough. Monday. At football practice, Liam got hit real hard. Landed, he got blocked real hard, I guess is the the more appropriate way to put it. He landed flat on his back, kind of head first, and was diagnosed with a concussion. Not a real serious one, but a concussion nonetheless. And he's been kind of dealing with the effects of that since then. Tuesday, we kept him out of school. By Tuesday evening, when we got home from work, he was looking a little better. He sounded a lot better. He wasn't like just, kind of out of it talking. He was more with it, sounded more like himself. He went to school Wednesday, and the trainer told him he could go to his game on Wednesday night. Not play, of course, but he could go, put his jersey on, just, regular like sweatpants or whatever, and be out there, cheering on his team. And as long as he felt up to it. And, well, of course, 14-year-old kid tells you he's up to it. And so there he was last night and was cheering his team on. And his team had a very good night for the first time in a while. And right around halftime, you could see him start to kind of rub his head. And I went over to the edge of the fence line and just kind of, hey, what's wrong? And he pointed towards his head. One of the other kids allowed him to borrow his sunglasses. He did have his headphones, which are noise canceling. But by the time we left, I did not let him ride on the bus back with the team, even though it would have been a lot of fun with the victory and all. Just the amount of noise. It was too much stimulation for his brain last night. The bright lights, the noise from the cheerleaders, noise from the crowd, obviously the team yelling, screaming, hooting, hollering, yada, 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 cheering. All got to be too much. So he was a little out of it coming home last night. Um, we, he went up to his room, laid down for about a half an hour or so, came back down, said he felt fine, had something to eat, and then he went to bed. So I got up to go to work this morning, and I'm thinking, all right, he felt fine. I got all the way to work, and maybe 20 minutes or so after I get there, my wife texts and says Liam woke up, head pounding in pain, and he had thrown up. And I'm like, well, shit, that's a symptom that we didn't have right out of the gates. So we're gonna have to go to the doctor. So of course, immediately email the school. Hey, Liam's not going to be there today. Email his coach. Liam's going to miss practice, obviously, and I emailed the trainer to keep her up to date on what's going on too, and just let them all know he's not going to be there. This is what's happening. Tried to make an appointment with the Michelle. Tried to make an appointment with the pediatrician, and they gave her the appointment at first. She texted that to me. I left work right after my morning meeting. Every morning, all of us leadership team, we have an 8:00 meeting. I left a few minutes after that, so it was probably 8:30ish. We're pretty quick. It's pretty much a routine thing. So 8:30ish, I was on my way home, and Michelle texts and says, "Okay, 11:30 at the pediatrician." I'm like, "Shit." Could have stayed at work a little longer, but I was also concerned about leaving him home if he was starting to show signs that this may have gotten worse somehow. So I kept, I kept coming home. And then she called a couple of minutes after that and said that the pediatrician had called back and said because it's head trauma related, we have to take him to the emergency room. So I get home, pick him up. We got to go over to a branch of Cincinnati Children's, which is up this way instead of going all the way downtown. They're very good. They're really great. I think actually you could see him right over my shoulder here, heading back to his room. No imaging. They didn't feel like imaging was needed to be done. They obviously concussion, and excuse me, geez, he has got to completely just shut down. So extremely limited phone, screen time, anything like that, and it really sucks for him because when he wasn't like there'd be times when his grades slip a little bit. And I tell him you're not allowed to play Xbox, read a book. He can't even do that because with the concussion, anything that forces you to concentrate, focus, stimulate, it you can't do it. He literally has to sit in his room or wherever, as dark as it can be, and just do nothing. It freaking sucks. And the varsity football game is tomorrow night, and he was wanting to go. And he every time he comes downstairs, he starts talking about, "Oh, I feel better this, I feel better that." I'm like, Liam, I know what you're trying to do, buddy, but we're just going to have to wait and see. I am very much against it. He was at his own game last night, and that was the freshman football game on a Wednesday night. Much smaller crowd, just the freshman cheerleaders. Not as much going on. This is a varsity game at the big field with the entire town there. The bright lights, the Friday night lights, the full on varsity, cheerleaders, the band. It's a bummer for him, but I think he's going to have to sit that one out. And then to make matters worse, yesterday morning, I'm walking around work and I don't know what happened, but my lower back just locked up. I think I'm just getting old, right? Or maybe it's stress related. And I have been in pretty moderate to sometimes extreme pain since about 10 o'clock yesterday morning. So it's been a rough couple of days over here. But we're loaded up with ibuprofen and Tylenol now. So hopefully things start to loosen up and we can have a good weekend. Michelle, and just to finish up on the family stuff, I may as well take you through the whole week here. Michelle in Brooklyn will head to Cleveland with my mother-in-law tomorrow afternoon. There's a wedding up there, so they're going. So it's just the boys and I here this weekend. Grady is going to the football game tomorrow night. Liam probably not. He'll be home here with me. Looking forward to a pretty chill weekend with Liam having the concussion symptoms and stuff. We're probably taking it pretty mellow, pretty slow this weekend. Not a whole lot in the way of college football matchups. You guys know I usually like to throw a few of those at you. Top 25 matchups, stuff to look at as far as betting lines and whatnot. The only top 25 matchup on Saturday is number 9 Missouri at number 25 Texas A&M. I didn't bother to do any research on it, so we're not going to talk that tonight. You want to talk a couple of betting lines that are a little bit out there? You got Michigan at Washington, and Washington, I think, right now is laying 2.5. That's a little weird. Washington unranked. Michigan, I think, is still 10th or 9th. So, no, 10th, I'm pretty sure. And then you have Penn State at home against UCLA. Don't get me wrong. Penn State should roll UCLA, but Penn State shouldn't be laying 25 to 28 points against anyone. All right, so if you're looking for some, I'd probably take UCLA in the points. And if you lose, then you lose. But until Penn State proves they can cover a spread that big, yeah, I would bet against it. So there's your quick college football thing. I'm going to get to the business end of things here in just a minute. Thought I'd run you through my hectic week here. And then we're going to get to the boner of the week. And then we're going to dive into the Eagles, guys. And I'm going to talk to you about stepping back from the ledge a little bit. But like I did when I teased the show, there's definitely plenty to be unhappy about. So we're going to talk that too. Quick over to the room before we get to the business stuff. Keenan. Yeah, Lou, it sucks with the concussion. I just feel bad for him. And it happened at practice. And so the Wednesday night they're playing against, last night they're playing against Hamilton. Hamilton's not a good team. Liam has worked really hard. And on the depth chart on the roster chart, he has moved all the way up to second string on both for the receivers and for defensive backs. And he was going to get a chance to play one, the other, or both last night. And then he gets the concussion on Monday. I mean, he was really distraught about it. I felt terrible for him. I still do. But, sometimes it's the way it goes, unfortunately. Lou Dominguez, feel better, Liam. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Keaton Harmon, rest that noggin, Liam. I wish I could rest for you. Believe me, I wouldn't mind it one bit. Yeah, you and me both, buddy. I hear you. All right. Everyone, we are sponsored by Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia, just minutes away from the sports complex. Cheerleaders brings you the area's most beautiful women on 5 different stages. Open 7 days a week from noon until 2 a.m. and until 4 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. For group information, call 215-467-1980 and reserve a private booth and party package. If you're looking for a place to watch your favorite sporting event and you can't make it out to the ballpark or to the lake, head on over to Cheerleaders, folks, and enjoy the 75-foot HD TV wall as well as HD TV screens throughout the club. Folks, once again, that is Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Call 215-467-1980. I keep forgetting to change the wording on this, and I always screw it up. You can only be watching us on YouTube, and I got to be honest with you, folks, I don't think that's going to change. I think this is going to be our thing, and so what we need is your help in sharing the YouTube page, getting it out there, helping us out, right? Share it everywhere. We always want you to share Facebook and Twitter, or X, Instagram, TikTok, but we need you to share the YouTube page as well, because the YouTube page is where we're going to be, at least right now, streaming. Any show that we stream will be YouTube only right now. All right. So do us all a solid, and on top of the social media stuff that you already do, and we're always so very appreciative of it, go ahead and share the YouTube page as well. See if we can't get that head count up just a little higher. All right. And if anybody knows anyone is this person or knows anyone looking for some additional advertisement for a local business, small business, larger business, whatever, and would like to be a Green Legion Radio sponsor, go ahead and reach out. Small monetary commitment to be made for 12 months. At the end of 12 months, to review and just make sure that it's mutually beneficial, not to ask for any kind of increase. All right, so reach out if you got anybody interested in that. Yeah, that's about all I got there. So Lou Mancini, boner is the boner of the week. How about Peterson for throwing his guys under the bus? I'm going to tell you something. You know what? And he's not the boner of the week, but I'm going to bring something to your guys' attention that I'm not sure you're fully aware of here. There's a lot of shit going on around out there about Nick Sirianni. And don't get me wrong, we're going to get to who I'm going NDN now. We are definitely going to get to him here on this show, and it's going to continue to be a thing until he proves that he's not a jerk-off. However, I see a lot of posts and everything saying, bring back Doug Peterson. I'm going to read to you his coaching record as a head coach. Let me get over here for just a minute. Yeah, Lou Dominguez, thanks, brother. Smash that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Always, always, always. Like, share, listen, subscribe. Threaten people to do it. However, Doug Peterson, okay? Look, don't get me wrong. 2017 was amazing. Absolutely amazing. It was also very much lightning in a bottle, all right? Now, I am not one of these people that thinks we would have lost the Super Bowl or not made it if Carson Wentz was still out there. I think we were destined to win that season regardless. And I'm not sure. Look, that Atlanta playoff game, I don't think it even comes down to a final play if Carson Wentz is our quarterback. That game, Nick Foles was bad in that game. Then, of course, he's magical against the Vikings and the Patriots, and he's forever a Philly legend, and he's Big Dick Nick, and so on and so forth. So, no, Mancini, it is not Sirianni. Actually, the boner of the week this week is not Eagles related, but we are going to get to it. So just give me a minute here. You brought up Peterson. 2017, we go 13-3. We win the Super Bowl. All right, magical season. Everything breaks our way except for Carson Wentz's freaking knee. But it was the basic definition of next man up. Anybody that had to miss a play, had to miss a week, had to miss whatever. Carson Wentz goes down. Anyone who had to step in, anyone we plucked off the waiver wire, all of it worked out all year long. Through the playoffs, everything. Magical season. 13-3. The rest of Doug Peterson's coaching career. 7-9 in his first season in Philly. Okay. That's 2016. Carson Wentz is a rookie. We lose Lane Johnson. I think that was the performance-enhancing drugs here. 17 wins the Super Bowl. 2018, 9-7. 2019, 9-7. 2020, 4-11-1. 4-11-1. Then he's out in 2021, comes back in 2022 with Jacksonville, 9-8, and everyone's looking at it like he's the savior of the franchise because that was such a disaster after Urban Meyer. Only problem is 2023, he also goes 9-8. And now this year, he is 0-4. So he is 60, 57-1 overall. 13 of those 60 wins are in one season. So if you take those out and take out just remove 2017, he is 47, 54-1 in his career. I would, at this point, like to know why everyone still thinks Doug Peterson is a special head coach. It's not like there's no talent in Jacksonville. Unless, I don't know what to make of Trevor Lawrence at this point. Is he a bust? He looks like a bust. I think he might be a bust. You guys remember I was questioning him last year. How good is he really? He's not winning any games. But like Peterson was supposed to turn things around. He was a Super Bowl winning coach, all this stuff, and it's not happening. They're actually getting worse when they should be getting better. And I can't just blame that on the quarterback. Because let's be honest here, the end of his tenure in Philadelphia, him and Carson Wentz were like this. Well, now what's the excuse? Wentz got blamed for all of it. And now he goes down to Jacksonville, and it's same old, same old. Instead of 9-7, he's 9-8. And now, 9 so his last 3 years in Philadelphia are 9-7, 9-7, 4-11-1. And now in Jacksonville, he's 9-8, 9-8, and it started out 0-4. Again, with a quarterback who's supposed to be uber talented. Who is Doug Peterson really? Because right now the Super Bowl year looks very much like the outlier. Is the way that looks. Sorry to break that to everyone. Look. He's always gonna be legendary in Philly. But let's be honest, even the Philly special play, he didn't call that play. Nick Foles called that play. Right? Doug just knew he wanted to go for it. He had no idea what play he wanted to call. You can see the look on his face when they show that replay. Foles runs right over to him. Doug's got his face in the Chinese food menu. Knows he wants to go for it. Doesn't look like he has a clue what play to call. Foles runs right over to him. You want Philly, Philly? And Peterson does this. Yeah, let's do it. Like, I think Dougie gets a little too much credit, is all I'm going to say. All right? And it's proving itself in Jacksonville. Lou Mancini, my worst fear is that 2022 Hurts was an anomaly. 2022 Hurts was also the only time he's had the same offensive system and coordinator carry over from the year previous to that year. Shane Steichen takes over the play calling and all that right around the halfway point in 2021 and then carries through 2022. It's the only time in Wentz's career, including college, where that had been the case. So there is something to be said for that. All right, but we'll get off Doug Peterson here. So, boner of the week. I know Lou always tries to guess it, and he's usually really good at it. But I had a feeling this one would end that streak. So, and actually, Doug Peterson's a perfect segue. Imprisoned former Jaguars employee suing FanDuel for exploiting his gambling addiction. Amit Patel was found to have stolen $22 million from the Jaguars, which he used to fuel his gambling addiction. He is now suing FanDuel, accusing the sportsbook of exploiting his gambling addiction. Back in March, Patel was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison for embezzling $22 million from the Jags to fuel that addiction. He has filed a civil suit in the Southern District of New York in which he alleges FanDuel ignored its own responsible gaming and anti-money laundering protocols. Patel is seeking $250 million in damages, according to documents obtained by ESPN. Really? Patel dumped $20 million into FanDuel while the sportsbook gave him $1.1 million in credits and sent him on lavish trips to the college football playoff, the Masters, and the Miami Grand Prix. On top of that, Patel alleges that FanDuel VIP host Brett Krause communicated with him around 100 times per day from 2021 through 2023. On days Patel didn't gamble, he claims Krause contacted him wanting to know why. I'll tell you why. Because you were spending $20 million. What was FanDuel doing? They were trying to continue getting money get back from their investment. Are you serious with this crap? And now you're going to turn around and try to seek $250 million in damages while your dumbass is sitting behind bars for stealing $22 million from the Jaguars, and it's FanDuel's fault? Give me a freaking break. You want to know what's wrong with society? This right here is a prime example of what's wrong with humans in general, right? Like this generation, what's going on out there where it's nobody takes any responsibility for their own shit. It's always someone else's fault. I stole $22 million from a professional sports franchise so I could fuel my degenerate jerk-off gambling habit. They then turn around and shower me with gifts because, well, I'm spending 8 figures a year with them, or however many millions of dollars a year with them, and it's their fault. That is the equivalent of a high roller going to Vegas, hitting up the tables all night long, getting comped a room and tickets to a Ron White comedy special or something. They find out that he stole the money to even go to Vegas, and he turns around and blames the casino for it. It's the exact same thing, and it's absolute lunacy. It is absolute lunacy. This is the type of shit. This is why sports leagues should not be in bed with gambling sites. It's this sort of thing. Forget about the players getting involved in it, right? That's bad enough that it has to be policed. This is the sort of shit that is going to keep going on. The steal, it's a higher level now of degenerate, right? Like they're stealing shit from NFL franchises, pissing it all away on whatever the hell he gambled on, probably on football because he worked for the Jaguars. And I mean, dude, $1.1 million in credits, right? So he dumped $20 million into FanDuel, was given $1.1 million in credits. So altogether, $21.1 million gambling. Is that from 21 to 23? My God. And they sent him to the college football playoff, the Masters, Miami, and the Miami Grand Prix. Dude, college football playoff and the Masters are like bucket list shit. And it's their fault that you stole money from the Jaguars. It's not the fact that you're just a piece of shit degenerate, right? That you can't control yourself, that you don't make enough income to support your degenerate habit. I don't get it, man. I been easily the boner of the week. This might be the boner of the century, right? Or definitely running for boner of the year. Lou, keep track of that one. What is his name? Amit Patel, former Jaguars employee. So $250 million. So I don't even know where you get off with that, right? Even the fact that you're blaming the gambling site for your own degenerate addiction is problem number one. But then 21.1 million dumped in there, plus plus 3 trips. How does that turn into $250 million? Why? Because you got put in prison for 6.5 years? Because you stole from your employer $22 million from your employer? Let me tell you something. If I could figure out a way to siphon $22 million from someplace, the last thing I'd be doing is gambling. That shit would be buried in friggin' mason jars in places that nobody would know about. Jesus Christ. Boner of the year, decade, century, whatever. I don't even know how old this dude is. Matthew Litt, Patel's attorney, claims FanDuel preyed on him, doing what it could to keep him gambling. Yes! Just like a casino does. What did you think was going to happen? Defendants actively and intentionally targeted and preyed on the plaintiff with incentives, credits, and gifts to create, nurture, expedite, and/or exacerbate his addiction, with the only possible outcome that he would ultimately hit rock bottom, which is not their responsibility. It's yours. You can easily just not respond. Don't answer the phone. Block the number. Shut off your account. Stop stealing shit from your employer. From 2019 to 2023, Patel embezzled more than $22 million from the Jaguars while working as the team's finance manager. In addition to his deposits on FanDuel, Patel was accused of purchasing 2 vehicles, a condo, and cryptocurrency with the money. So it's not just the gambling site. You just wanted money to run around and buy shit that you wouldn't normally be able to afford. Struck a plea deal in December 2023, and on top of his prison sentence, was ordered to pay $21 million in restitution. Well, guess what, Jaguars? You can't get blood from a stone, and I promise you that degenerate's got nothing left. Boner of the year candidate right there, folks. Good Lord. All right, I'm off my soapbox there. Lou Mancini, where do you find this shit? This is gold. It came across my phone the other day. I'm like, you have to be kidding me. Can junkies sue the pusher man? Right. Humans equal entertainment. Can tricks sue prostitutes for having that good? Lou Mancini, my father hates the fact that sports leagues are in bed with gambling apps. Yeah, I don't like it either. Lou Dominguez, I'm thinking about suing beer companies for advertising during football games and making me have a beer gut. Hey, dude, you know what? Let's make it a class action. I'll join. I'll sign up on that one. All right, I'm in. Lou Mancini is at the owner's nephew. And what do we got here? Lou, I'll be co-plaintiff. I'm thinking $500 million. Yeah, I'm in. Count me in. Class action coming up. We're going to sue Anheuser-Busch for... Ooh, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on here. Oops. But anyways. All right, guys. So, I understand the frustrations. I understand the anger. And I understand the, being upset. Especially as you head into a bye week coming off a game like we played against Tampa, which was absolutely atrocious. Before we get to all the negative, and as soon as I finish the positive end of things here, I am going to put the StreamYard link up, and anyone, and I do mean anyone, Birds fan or otherwise, you're welcome to join in and give your opinion. I need some of you to step back away from the ledge. All right, come back a little bit. And here's why. So, to start the year, who were some of the teams that were looked at as playoff teams in the NFC, contending for their division, contending for the NFC crown overall, and going to be tough matchups, right? Well, Green Bay, obviously, with the run they went on last year, a huge win in Dallas in the playoffs. Tampa Bay and Atlanta for sure, contending for the NFC South crown. Tampa Bay coming back with a Baker Mayfield looking to have another strong year, and Atlanta having added Kirk Cousins. New Orleans was not thought of as much to do about anything, and then they come out and they score 45.5 points, and they scored 91 points in the first 2 games of the season. Those are our first 4 opponents of the year, guys. And while I understand that we were technically the home team against Green Bay, it's still a road game. And not just on some neutral site in Nebraska. It's in South America, in a very contested portion of South America. Contested city in South America. So what I need you to consider, and don't get me wrong, there's plenty to bitch about too, and I'm going to join that parade here in just a minute. What I need everyone to consider is the amount of travel. Now, and we talked about this preseason and the concerns that I had for Nick Sirianni at that point if we came out and struggled out of the gates due to the travel. All right. Now, in this situation, I think the travel is just one of the problems. One of the reasons why we're 2-2. That's a lot of traveling. We talked about it. Down to Brazil, back home, down to New Orleans, back home, down to Tampa. Because, they're not smart enough to just go from New Orleans over to Tampa. Of course, I guess hindsight, the hurricane. But it's a lot of early season travel. It's basically 3 road games out of your first 4. And of those first 4 games, it's 3 games against teams who are expected to be playoff teams. One of which was preseason expected to be in contention for the NFC Championship. Then we'll throw in the injuries. A.J. Brown has not played since week 1. Devontae Smith went down in the New Orleans game, did not play against Tampa. Lane Johnson did not play against Tampa. During the Tampa Bay game, I saw Goddard have to take his pads off. I saw the offensive line. I saw Lane Dickerson come out dehydrated, which then moves Landon Dickerson over to center. Tyler Steen has to come in at the guard spot. That's a lot to deal with. And on top of all that, it's 2 new coordinators, new systems. And the first 4 weeks of the year are usually the time when you're getting your feet under you with that because, let's be honest, folks, nobody plays in the preseason anymore. And this is not just a Birds thing. This is across the league. These guys don't play or don't play enough to really have their feet under them. Trying to judge the NFL based on the first 4 weeks nowadays is really, really almost impossible to do because you just don't know who these teams are yet. So travel, injuries, getting their feet under them, new coordinators. 3 of the first 4 opponents are playoff teams. 3 of the first 4 games are road games, one of those being in Brazil. And we're a bad play call and dropped pass away, a couple of bad play calls and a drop pass away from being 3-1. That's where I'm going to ask you to step back from the ledge and not completely lose your minds over what's going on. It's easy to do that based on the optics from this past Sunday. It was brutal. But that's where I need you to reel it in a little bit. Okay, when you see people losing their shit, I need you to be the voice of reason for some of these folks, like I have tried to do. There's a StreamYard link. Anyone out there, you come right on in, and we can talk about the Birds. Now, that's the kumbaya part of it, okay? We're 2-2. You make the argument we should very easily be 3-1 despite all of that shit. Now we get to the portion where it sucks and the portion where everyone is going berserk. And I don't blame them. We just have to keep things in perspective. It's okay to call out what's going wrong. It's okay to bash Nick Sirianni, bash Jalen Hurts, bash Vic Fangio. What's not okay is to bash them and then not look at the other side of the coin as well, okay? Nobody's saying play both sides, but you have to consider everything. We just talked about positive stuff, okay? Legitimate reasons for why we're 2-2. Now, we should be 3-1. No question about it. I had no visions of winning that game in Tampa Bay. Okay, with Brown and Smith being out, that was bad enough. Then Lane is out, and in case you guys didn't know, going into that game Sunday against Tampa, the Philadelphia Eagles, since Lane Johnson has joined this team, have a win percentage of 38 when Lane Johnson does not play. And that's regardless of who else is injured. And you throw in Brown and Smith and all the other shit that went on during the game. It was a tough day. I've had a feeling it would be a tough day. Now, I didn't like seeing us get our absolute doors blown off. You don't ever want to be out of a game. What felt like they felt like we were out of the game right after kickoff. But I had no aspirations of winning that game Being competitive would have been nice, though. We should be 3-1. And we are not because Nick Sirianni is our head coach. And he did everything he could to try to have us lose in New Orleans as well. All right. I've tried to be positive about Nick. I tried to move on in the offseason. Once the Birds decided that hey, look, we're not firing Nick. This is the coach. Okay. I said it a billion times on here. We're done. That's the end of the conversation. Time to move forward. It's going to be a fresh year. Wipe off 2023. And here we go. Bring in 2 new coordinators. Got it. Unfortunately, his decision-making, in particular on 4th down, is nightmare fuel. What's up, buddy? Getting a snack. Liam in there getting a snack. So he's got an appetite, which is good. Unfortunately, Nick Sirianni's decision-making, especially, like I said, especially on 4th down, atrocious. The Atlanta game. Early in the game. Nothing game. 4th and 4. You take the points. We talked about this ad nauseum. For weeks now, we've been burying him for this. But it's worth continuing to bring up. You take the points. It's a nothing game in a game where you've already exchanged possessions. It looks like it's going to set up to be a bit of a defensive battle. You're at home. Crack the ice, get the points, and move on. Flash forward to the end of that game. Minute 48 left. You've made Atlanta use all of their timeouts. All you've got to do is pick up the 1st down, or at least at bare minimum, keep the clock running and get the field goal. What does he do? I don't want to hear that was all Kellen Moore. I don't, on that 3rd down play. It's a pass play, and it's stupid. I said it on here at the time. All of the Western civilization knows that you run the freaking ball in that spot. We end up throwing the ball. Now, look, I also said this. You guys know I'm a huge Barkley fan. Once the play call went in, you can disagree with it all we want, but that was the call. Barkley knew that was coming to him. He was wide open on the edge. The throw is perfect, and he dropped it. I'm not going to kill Saquon too much for it, but he did drop the ball. Saquon beat himself up enough for that, and it showed the following week in New Orleans. But those 3 points at the beginning of the game, so then stopping the clock for them at the end, not taking more time. You could take another 40 seconds off the clock, and you didn't do it. You kick the field goal, and then give it to and then the defense stinks coming back the other way. 3 plays, and they're already on our 12-yard line, and the rest is history, right? Jalen Hurts throws the interception to end the game. But it's Nick Sirianni decision-making that is the number one cause for that loss. If you took the field goal early on, we win the game. It's that simple. Hell, if you run the ball in that late spot and then kick the field goal, we're more likely to win the game. Didn't do either. Lose the football game. Okay. Move forward to New Orleans. 2 different times. So not only do we not learn from the mistake in Atlanta, now we're going to come to New Orleans. Now you're on the road, and what the hell, dude? Liam, this is unacceptable. You couldn't just get potato chips? He's got to make popcorn literally right here while I'm trying to do this. And it's just the concussion. I don't think you're thinking straight. We'll chalk it up to that. So now we move forward to New Orleans. Nick not only doesn't learn the lesson, but doubles down on it in New Orleans. You could make the argument it was triple down on it. Twice he turns down chip shot field goals for it would have been chip shot field goals for Jake. Twice. take 6 points off the board in a game that we were losing 3-0. And then he decides to line up for a 60-yard field goal. I don't understand why we think that's the call there. You had taken the lead. You miss that field goal, you give them the ball on the 50-yard line, which is, of course, what happened. The call there is take the delay of game and have your punter try to pin them deep in a game where our defense was kicking their ass. Instead, you line up for a 60-yard field goal. Jakey misses it wide right, and that gives New Orleans momentum, and they come right down and score. Now, thankfully, the ensuing possession from us, Dallas Goedert busts loose, and of course, Saquon cleans it up at the end. But Nick Sirianni, terrible decision-making. Then we'll come to the Tampa game this past Sunday, where I can tell you right now, even if I had any delusions of winning that game, despite all the injury stuff, those would have left my brain within the first few minutes of the game. That team, including looking at the scenes of the guys on the sidelines, all of them looked like they would rather be anywhere else but on that field. I cannot possibly be the only person that felt that way. I can't. Somebody else has to back me up here. They looked like they would literally rather be on Mars than there in Tampa Bay. I get it. It was hot and everything, but that is a head coach not having his team motivated, and it's bullshit. And then after the game, after we get shellacked, here goes Darius Slay is going to go on Micah Parsons' freaking podcast and start chirping. To me, that also falls into the Nick Sirianni bucket. I believed last season that he had lost the locker room, and I don't think he has the locker room now. I don't. I also believe that this is not fully a Kellen Moore offense. We're going to give Kellen Moore a pass for being fired with the Chargers. That was Brandon Staley as the head coach, and that thing was a mess. What he did do there was they were in the top 10 in motion plays during his tenure there. When he was the OC in Dallas, they were number 1 against the blitz in his last year there. When you go back and you look at some of those games and you look at what's going on now, it feels like a Nick Sirianni offense with a little bit of Kellen Moore mixed in. It doesn't feel like this is Kellen Moore's deal. And I don't get why Nick Sirianni is still being allowed to play in that sandbox. He freaking stinks at it. He stunk at it the first half of 2021. Then he turns it over to Shane Steichen. We make the playoffs in 2021, having no business making the playoffs. We make it. 2022 speaks for itself. That was all Shane Steichen's offense. All of it. Steichen leaves after 2022, which we talked about on here. I told you back then that was going to be the bigger loss. He leaves. Brian Johnson comes in. It's a Nick Sirianni offense with Brian Johnson calling plays. Johnson's gone. Now it's Kellen Moore, and I'm not seeing a whole lot of difference here. Honestly. Now, look, I get being limited without A.J. Brown there, and now this past game, you can kind of throw out, but it looks very Sirianni-ish. And I don't like it. His offense sucks. Whatever relationship that he figured out with Shane Steichen for half of 2021 and all of 2022, he had to figure that out with Kellen Moore. All right? The entire football world, professional football world, can't be crazy. Kellen Moore has been rumored to be an up-and-coming possible head coaching candidate, at some point. That doesn't come from nowhere. It's not because he sucks at his job. And you know who does suck at his job? Nick Sirianni sucks at his job. That's who sucks at his job. And I fucking had it. Now we'll get over to the defense. And here Lou Mancini brings up 2 words are part of the problem. Bryce up. Yeah, well, I'm not going to defend Huff, but I'm going to tell you that the other 2 words might be Vic Fangio, because it very much looks to me, watching this defense week over week, it looks very much to me like Vic is trying to pigeonhole these guys into his system rather than creating game plan for what his current players do well. And Bryce Huff is an example of that. Bryce Huff is not a run stopper, okay? He is a pass rusher. And by his own admission, Vic Fangio has said that he has dropped Huff into the run into run defense more often than Huff has ever had to do in his career. Now, why would you do that? That's the same type of shit as dropping Hassan Reddick into pass coverage last year, and we were ready to tie and quarter Matt Patricia for it. Rightfully so. But why is Fangio getting a break? I don't want to hear it. Yes, Bryce Huff needs to perform better. Yes, we need more from the front 4 on a consistent basis overall. Huff, Carter, Davis, Nolan Smith, Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat, all of them. We need more consistent pressure in the backfield, and we're not getting it. And I have a feeling part of it is because of the way Fangio is setting up. Instead of scheming around what his players are good at, he says, no, this is my system. You fuckers need to learn it. It's feeling that way. You guys tell me if I'm crazy. And yeah, Mancini, another good point. Isaiah Rodgers, stay off of social media. Yeah, enough with the butt hurt. And Darius Slay, I don't want to hear you on Cowboy Players podcasts. I don't want your fucking apology. I want you to be an adult, be the veteran in that locker room, and when we get beat, I don't want to see you posting your personal goddamn stats. I'm sick and tired of that crap, and you've been doing it the entire time you've been in Philadelphia. I would bet you were doing it when you were in Detroit, too. Nobody wants to hear about your passes defensed, your previous year's freaking quarterback rating against when we go out and get shellacked 33-16. Shut up and do your job. Because you got smoked twice on Sunday. You're just lucky the guy dropped the second one. You know who has looked the part? Quentin Mitchell. Rookie. Vic Fangio. You want to tell me why the hell you're trying to cover Chris Godwin with Nolan Smith? Can you answer that question? Right? What is the thought process? That's Chris Godwin. This isn't like their 4th wide receiver or a tight end or a halfback. This is Chris Godwin. Every bit a solid number 2 wide receiver in this league. I got my question. Nick, I'm pretty much out. I'm pretty much out on him. Look, I'm going to tell you right now, 2 weeks between the Tampa game and when we play the Factory of Sadness at home. If we come out and struggle at all against that garbage Browns team with that fucking pervert quarterback that they got, I may fly to Philly and slash Nick's tires myself. I can't. It's enough. It's enough already. This is it. I would not have been upset, and I am not an advocate of firing head coaches during the season. I just think it creates a lot of shit that no team really needs. And as bad as Nick has been, I still would have held to her. However, had they gone ahead and canned him after this game against Tampa, where you had the 2-week stretch, you still have 13 games to go after the bye week, you weren't going to hear me complain about it. Not even a little bit. Because if this doesn't turn around quick, I don't know. But I honestly think our two biggest problems start with coaching, and it's Nick first and Fangio right on his heels. I'm willing to give Kellen Moore a break because I'm not sure he's being allowed to do what he's really capable of doing, I guess is the best way to put it. He was kind of forced out in Dallas because Mike McCarthy wanted all of that. Because Mike McCarthy's a big fat hog. The Chargers thing, Brandon Staley had that whole thing a mess. I am willing to give Kellen Moore a pass for now. But if there comes a point where Sirianni does get dismissed, and now it's Kellen Moore's offense, right? Now that excuse is gone, and this offense still looks like this, I'll throw his ass under the bus right with everybody else. Right now, I'm willing to give him a pass because I think Nick Sirianni's fingerprints are all over that bullshit right now. Finally, last but not least, and I know this is very touchy for certain people. I do not see Fanny in the room, but she hates when I go down this road. Sorry, dear. Jalen Hurts. Look, kid, I get it. You can kind of see it anyway, the optics, anyways. And obviously, I've never been a professional football player. I'm not in that locker room. I don't know. I'm just a fan with an opinion, right? The optics of it very much look like Jalen still doesn't respect Nick Sirianni. And at this point, I don't really blame him. However, while we can chalk up some of the interceptions to Sirianni offense, bad play call, maybe flustered a little bit, some of the interceptions are just him trying to play hero ball. The end of the game against Atlanta, early on against early on against Green Bay when he just, he's on his back foot and just chucks it down the middle of the field. This hero ball throws. And he does tend to do that. What I will not chalk up to Nick Sirianni is the fumbles. There is never an excuse unless your offensive line is so bad that you can't see shit. There is never an excuse to put that ball on the ground. And I will reference this one against Tampa specifically as my focal point on Jalen Hurts and the turnover issues here. Rodgers had just picked up that blocked extra point and rumbled it in for 2, making it a 2-score game. We're down 30-16. We are on the move in Tampa Bay territory. Jalen Hurts drops back. He's in the pocket. He's 1, 2. You can go watch the play. It's at least 3 seconds. The rush comes. He has to duck it. At that point, when he comes back up, he's got to know he can't come up and just stand there still in that same spot. You got to get out, whether it's take off and run or just get the hell out of the pocket, throw the ball away, try to find somebody, whatever. Instead, he stands straight up and just stays there. Another probably 2 count goes by, bam, ball gets knocked out of his hand. He never feels the pressure coming, and that tends to be a recurring thing. And that is not on anyone else but Jalen Hurts, period. That is 100% on Jalen Hurts. Can't blame that on Nick. Can't blame that on anyone. You can't blame that on injuries to anyone else. That is just it. And the turnovers have been horrible. He leads the league in turnovers since the start of 2023. Now, he's also got a ton of touchdowns during that time, too. A good portion of those, at least a chunk of them, are also tush-push touchdowns, okay? So when we talk about his number of touchdowns during that period, I get it. But let's put a few things in perspective too. 1 or 2 yard touchdown run when you've got the greatest center ever last year. It's a little skewed. The turnovers are horrible, and they have to stop. That and people try to argue with me. Well, it didn't cost us the game. Listen to me very carefully. Turnovers always are a reason for a loss. Always. If you lose a game and you turned the ball over at all, the turnover is part of the reason for the loss. Period. End of story. Doesn't matter. That's it. There's no argument to the contrary. Now, there could be other reasons for it, for the loss, but the turnover is definitely part of it. And in often cases, it's the number one reason for it. So there you go. Back over to the room here. Keenan Harmon, I'll personally show you where Sirianni parks the link and hand you an ice pick. Hand me an ice pick and keep lookout, dude. Lou Mancini, Fangio's overrated. I don't mind a bend don't break defense. I really don't. The whole league's kind of going to that because of the rule changes and how much these, and particularly in the pass game, how much these guys can get away with. All the way to the 20-yard line. What defenses have started to do, and we've talked this before, Lou. What defenses have started to do is get better at specific situations, right? Namely red zone, where the field shortens up. The offense can't spread you out like that, and they can't get away with as much. That's why you see a lot of the rub routes and the pick plays down low like that, because the offense doesn't have the space to work with. It very much benefits the defense. So get good there, and it really doesn't matter how many yards you give up. It worked against Atlanta until the final drive. We had Atlanta only had 315 yards of total offense to that point, and then of course we give up 70 yards in the blink of an eye. I think I've had farts last longer than that drive did. But anyways, baseball playoffs. Real quick before we wrap it up for tonight. So the doubleheader on Monday presented a pretty cool thing, right? If the Mets or Braves swept the doubleheader, then the other one would be out and Arizona would be in. If they split, then Atlanta and the Mets both get in, and Arizona's out. First on my list would have been the Mets being out. I can't stand them. But behind that, it's not like I was bitching about the D-backs being left on the outside looking in. I'll never forgive them for 2001. That World Series broke my heart. It was after, obviously 2001. It was after the whole 9/11 attacks and everything. New York under, a lot of duress. The whole country was, but, the towers going down. And, for New York, we really wanted that one in the Bronx. So, so that sets up your wild card games, Tuesday, Wednesday, and the last one we'll finish up tonight. You had the Tigers and Houston, and the Tigers take the cheating Astros down, right? 2 games, out they go. You had Kansas City and Baltimore. Baltimore, the Orioles at this point are probably the biggest disappointment in baseball. This team was a 100-win team last year. Tore the cover off the ball for the first half of this year, and then they just flat out stopped hitting the ball. I do not know why or what the hell happened there. There is so much talent in that lineup, and they just stopped scoring runs. I don't get it. But that's what happened. Kansas City. It's not like Kansas City went into Baltimore and scored a whole bunch. They scored, 2-1 and 1-0. And they take them down. So on the American League side, now Detroit will go play Cleveland in a 5-game series, and Kansas City will come play the Yankees. On the National League side, we had the Braves at the Padres. That didn't last long. I think that series ended when Fernando Tatis Jr. smashed that home run in the first inning of Game 1. And then now the other one to finish up is the Mets at the Brewers. The Brewers have done everything that they possibly can to lose this 3-game series. And yet they somehow come back last night, and now it's going to force this Game 3, which should be getting underway here in a minute. And I'll be glued to that for sure. I hate the Mets. And for Chris Sack, for our great friend Chris Sack's sake, I really don't want to have to see the Phillies play the Mets. So we're definitely rooting for Milwaukee there. Not because I don't think the Phillies can beat the Mets. I think the Phillies are obviously the better team. It's just I know what kind of stress that's gonna put all of you under. Chris just tends to be a little bit more intense than the rest of you. I like having my friend around without his heart palpitations, right? So we'll be rooting for the Brewers, of course. But yeah, so the winner of that will go play the Phillies. The Padres will go and play the Dodgers. And the Padres are not afraid of the Dodgers. They play them all year, every year. You saw that crowd at the close of the when they knocked off Atlanta. Nobody left. Whole crowd's chanting BLA. So I'm hoping that sets up for a good series. The division round will get underway. What is it? Saturday? It's not Friday, is it? Please don't be Friday. I think it's Saturday. Pretty sure it's Saturday. We're going to be definitely sure here, but yeah, it's Saturday. That's what I thought. Not everybody, but both American League and then the Padres and Dodgers will get underway on Saturday. And then Sunday night is just the Padres. Oh, it's because of football. Yeah, they got to juggle with the NFL. So it gets a little messy right now with the NFL going on when the weekend baseball playoffs come up. But that's how your stuff breaks down right now. Opening round, it's not like any games were really blowouts except for the Mets 8-4 win in Game 1. Everything besides what finishes up tonight was just 2 games and done. So we'll look on to the 5-game set in the division round, and we'll go on from there. Keenan, give us the Brewers, muck the Fets. Absolutely, dude. What is Mets? Does anybody know what Mets stands for? You guys know what that stands for? Blue Mancini, did you ever see the HBO documentary 9 Innings to Ground? So yeah, I did, brother. I have watched. I've watched. I don't know if I've watched all of them, but I've watched damn near all of them about 9/11. I grew up. And most of the guys that are left in the room here, the guys who've known me for a few years now, you guys know I grew up about 40 minutes from New York City. And I was at Yankee Stadium September 10th, 2001 for a Yankees-Red Sox game that we took a bus in to the city for, booze cruise, drank the whole ride down. And it rained out. It poured rain the night before. It poured rain that night on September 10th. And, on the way down, there was some of us talking about not taking the bus back and doing the game and then going and hitting up the city and just staying in the city overnight. Game rains out. Fuck it. We'll just get back on the bus and go home. Nobody wants to walk around Manhattan in the freaking rain. That's a pain in the ass. Go back to the bars, blah, blah, blah. And, wake up the next morning to what everybody woke up the next morning to. So, yeah, Lou, I've watched them all, or at least most of them. Yeah, it's tough stuff to watch. But to close on a positive note, to close on a fun note, Mets, if you've not heard this before, I'm sure most of you have. What does Mets stand for? Right? METS is my entire team sucks. Or as us Yankee fans like to call the Mets, that AAA team in Queens. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up here. So for those of you left in the room and those of you who came in at all, I really appreciate it. Lou, Keenan, looks like you guys were the stalwarts tonight. Lou Dominguez, thank you for dropping by, brother. Always good to see you. And for those of you that were watching but decided not to comment, that's okay too. But come on back again next week, and we will. I'll continue to listen to any airing of grievances you might have on the current state of the Philadelphia Eagles. We'll have some more playoff baseball games under our belt at that point, including games by both the Yankees and the Phillies at that time. So we'll see how that's going. And then we'll start breaking down the matchup against Cleveland and what we expect to see happen in the big home game against the Factory of Sadness. Time to right the ship, right? So, all you guys, be good. Enjoy your weekend. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. We are going to get out of here. It's not bad. A little over an hour and 10 minutes. So, don't do anything I wouldn't do. Remember that Judge is not back in until Monday. We are proudly brought to you by Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, located at 2740 South Front Street in Philadelphia. Call 215-467-1980 for all of your group rates and party packages. Folks, be good. Take care. Until next week, this has been the Unhappy Gilmore Show, powered by Green Legion Radio and part of the Green Legion Radio family. Be good. Have a good weekend. Again, remember that Judge ain't back in until Monday. And as always, go Birds. All right, y'all. That's going to do it. No extended outro here. My back's killing me. I'm going to go sit down and try to watch this playoff baseball game and get to sleep and get my Friday and weekend on. Take care, guys. We love you.